happens to America if net migration drops to zero?
The nation of immigrants.
For the first time in a century, America's population could stop growing through immigration. Every year since the 1930s, more people have moved to America than have left. By the end of Joe Biden's presidency, net migration stood at 2.3 million a year. But under Trump, that era is over. Estimates suggest it could already have turned negative. Forget tariff wars. This is the most radical economic experiment of Donald Trump's presidency.
For the first time in 50 years, we are now seeing reverse migration.
Trump says closing the borders is necessary to protect American jobs. He's wrong. Closing the borders will make America poorer, smaller, and less innovative. His plan to charge $100,000 for an H-1B visa would create new obstacles for talented workers following the route once used by tech executives like Elon Musk and Satya Nadella. And attacks on universities are scaring off foreign students and researchers. Uncertainty about immigration will persuade many bright foreigners to work or study elsewhere. And with unemployment already fairly low, there's no reserve army of American labor waiting in the wings to pick crops or build houses. That means disruption, and it means higher prices. And there's a macroeconomic cost too. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that Biden-era immigration surge will shrink the federal deficit by about $90 billion a year over the next decade. That's because those migrants will likely pay more in tax and generate more tax revenues than the state spends on them. Slamming the door shut will reverse that effect. But the slow burn damage will be even worse. America's aging. Without new arrivals, its working-age population would already be shrinking. That means fewer taxpayers supporting a growing retired population. This chart shows dependency ratio forecasts in different immigration scenarios, from high net immigration to none. In a high migration scenario, there would be about 80 dependents for every 100 working-age people by 2100. In zero migration America, there will be almost 100. The irony is that the Trump administration is doing this as attitudes towards migrants seem to be softening. 79% of Americans now say that immigration is a good thing for the country, the highest on record. But even if his successor partly reopens the borders in 3 years' time, vast damage will already have been done.
Patriots, welcome to the Magic Carpet Ride. Let's start. All of Americans are feeling right now. Many Americans. Every single day, more and more people are waking up to the reality of unchecked illegal immigration. They see the overwhelmed cities, the strained hospitals, the crowded schools, the rising crime rates in sanctuary jurisdictions, and the billions and billions of taxpayer dollars being spent on people who shouldn't be here in the first place, and they're absolutely done with it. I'm one of them. The sentiment is growing louder and louder by the week. Send them back. Deportation isn't just a policy preference anymore. For a huge portion of the country, in fact, it's becoming a demand. Americans are tired of being told that they're the bad people for wanting their own country to prioritize its own citizens. I know, I'm sure the hell sick of it. But this isn't a new way of thinking. And in fact, tonight we're going to examine where this idea really comes from in American history and why it's relevant to today. The concept of remigration, which is returning people back to their country of origin, and that's all, was once openly discussed and supported by some of America's greatest leaders, most notably Abraham Lincoln and the American Colonization Society. Lincoln repeatedly stated that blacks and whites would struggle to coexist peacefully as equals in the same society. He supported efforts to colonize freed slaves elsewhere because he believed that differences ran too deep for long-term harmony. So here's the question that we're going to ask tonight. Was Lincoln right? There's no doubt that looking around in our society today, over 200 years later, he may very well be. And more importantly, why In 2026, has remigration suddenly become one of the most explosive and relevant topics in America and across the entire West? Why? If it's such a terrible, unworkable idea, then why are so many countries right now, Denmark, Sweden, Italy, the Netherlands, Dublin, the UK, why are all of these countries openly discussing and even implementing re-immigration style policies? We're going to dig into the history of that, the data, the human reality, and the growing public frustration that the ruling class desperately wants us to ignore. Because I'm sure as hell tired of it. And I know a lot of other people are too. Joining me tonight, my co-host is always Aladdin and the Oracle. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate you, of course. This is something that is, again, a trending topic. A trending topic that is being weaponized and politicized by the mainstream media against its own citizens. Am I right or wrong about that?
Well, it's funny because we try to paint this image, because the media is they're their own wing of the lovely DSA, if you will, but they're trying to paint this image that the idea of people that are not willing to assimilate or be a part of what we're actually doing as a country to have to be told to go home. I'm sorry, but if you have a party at your house and someone shows up and they get real drunk and start peeing on everything, you're throwing them out of your house. I don't want to hear it. It's just that simple.
And this is not a new or a fringe thing. Okay, this has been used by nations throughout history. Whenever a large scale migration created unresolvable tensions, let's just say. You're seeing that happening everywhere in Europe right now. It's obviously happening in Ireland. We know it's on the verge of happening in the United States. And yet still, just like we've been for the last 200 plus years, we remain complacent and allow the Democrats specifically to weaponize and politicize the information that is going on, just like they did back in the day at the foundation of the ACS in 1816. The same thing they did back in those days, whenever they literally tried to make amends with slaves that had been freed. Literally at the very conception of the idea of freeing the slaves, they tried at that time to make amends by saying, hey, we will take you and put you on boats and we will take you to your country of origin or elsewhere.
It's we got to be a little bit more careful on how we break down exactly what he offered. We're going to put you on boats and send you back this time. No,
it's the truth. I mean, that's the reality of the situation.
But I hear you.
I know it sounds bad when I summarize.
I thought I had to take that in for a second. Like, hey, wait a minute. Let me throw a remix here on that, because the idea is to give them a shot. Hey, if this happened, if you want to go home, we're going to help you get there. Here's some financing. Here's some funds. We got your back. Go. That was like the olive branch, if you will. Like, hey, you want to stay, try to build it up. Do your thing. You can. But if you want to go back home, we're going to help you do that.
And so, for those that are not aware, okay, this goes all the way back to 1816. That's when this started. Okay, and it was with the founding of something called the American Colonization Society. And this was founded with a lot of prominent Americans, people like Henry Clay and James Monroe, people that were very prominent in society as a mainstream solution to racial conflict. And they did this to try and cover Lincoln's repeated supports for colonization. Okay. And so even back in the day, you had attempts from people to try and fix the solution that they knew was coming, the problem that they knew that was coming. Lincoln openly said multiple times that he believed that society was going to legitimately crumble. And I digress. Here we are in 2026 with obvious issues that are happening in this country. And much like everywhere else in Europe, now you have the United States on the forefront of this quote unquote migration crisis. But in reality, it's the same situation that's happened everywhere else in the world with everybody else in the world.
Yeah, but the problem here, and Oracle, I definitely think you can swing away at this part, but the problem is America being the largest and richest nation on the planet in the history of the world. For the left to utilize that, to utilize our money, our taxpayer funds, like anywhere you go in the world, if you really get to know people there, they'll laugh. They tell you, oh, you want a lifestyle, you want free money, you want this, go to America. If you're going to stay here, you have to work hard and grow. It's hysterical. So when we do that, and we have the resources like you see them used in Dearborn, you see all the money coming out of Minnesota, all that fraud, everything you're seeing with the Medicare fraud right now here in Illinois with the Islamic community, with the CARE group. It's unreal. And I mean, it ties back to not only money and control, but this is a takeover plan. It is a legitimate plan to destroy a nation from within itself. And like you said, the greatest thinkers in the back in the day, our leaders from back then, even said there's got to be a third option. When they were thinking about that with slavery, that's one of those ideas, like the Constitution, that is going to carry into now. So where do we carry with that now? Hey, we have a horrible number, a large number of illegal aliens here, immigrants here, that are here not because they were legitimately coming with their family to try to seek better life. They're military-aged men. They're different groups that are draining away at our system, siphoning us off, taking all our resources to the point where you keep pushing, trying to get in the door. We're eventually going to, it's going to get to that throw you off point. Oracle, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, you're right on the money, because a society can't sustain itself without any level of actual cultural cohesion. It never in the history of mankind has any society actually been able to survive that. First and foremost, that is the final nail in the coffin. Anywhere that you look in history, if you do not have a cohesive people with a value set that allows them to govern from a equal playing field, it just won't happen. It's not possible. Simply because if the rules of engagement can't be agreed upon, nothing else can happen. Everything ceases to function. Beyond that, there have been a lot of remigration efforts, even just within the history of the United States. So Abraham Lincoln is the first one who did it. And he was, obviously giving people the option. It was not a forced program. It was a offer of, here, if you would like to go somewhere else, we are going to set you up so that you do not have to stay here and live with these people that you hate. Another example of it was during the Great Depression in the 1930s, because the economic situation had gotten so severe. Mexican repatriation, that was one major program that started up. And so this was one that was actually done through coercion. It was coercion, raids, promise of free one-way train tickets, and an estimate of about 2 million people of Mexican descent. So 60% of whom were actually U.S. citizens were removed from the United States. And that was during the Great Depression. And the reason for that is because resources were so limited that everyone who was here was starving anyway. And then beyond that, we also have Operation Wetback, which I don't know if is a word that I'm actually allowed to say on the platform, but that's what it was actually called.
I guess we're going to find out.
We're going to find out. But this is a historical term that was coined by Dwight D. Eisenhower. So platforms, listen to me.
There's a lot of historical words.
Exactly. And that is the name of this operation. So this was another militarized government initiative that utilized border patrol sweeps and deportations to forcibly remove another 1 to 2 million undocumented Mexican workers. So this was actually forcible removal of illegals. And this was in the 1950s. So, and then you also have the Great Migration and Internal Displacement. That was from 1910 through 1970, literally going on. It was a 60-year operation. You have, and then you have everything that's going on now. So if you look at the history of our country, when you had people that were unassimilable, they were removed. That's just the way it was. And now, even beyond illegal immigration, one of the things that's directly affecting my home state here in Arkansas is fraudulent H-1B visa workers. One of the things that's been happening in India at the moment is there have been large-scale sweeps of operations that were fraudulently creating fake degrees to give to Indian workers so that they could apply and successfully gain H-1B visa status and move to the United States. It is so severe in this
A lot of them
area.
became truck drivers.
They did. A lot of them became truck drivers and a lot of them work in tech. And there are two large corporations that have really benefited from this, and both of them are in my hometown. I live in the home of Walmart, and we are directly adjacent to JB Hunt as well as Tyson. All three of those places are headquartered here in Northwest Arkansas, and we are 100% overrun with H-1B visa workers that are not qualified for the jobs that they're doing. And they're working in trucking and they're working in tech, and it is a disaster.
The amount of people that I contemplate in my head that are working jobs like that they should not be working, like for instance, truck drivers, it should frighten everybody. It should frighten everybody. And I can tell you that like that is 100% legitimate fact. I know several state troopers because they come into my shop every single day or every single week and they get meat. And I ask them straight up, hey, are you actually pulling over undocumented people? And they say, hell to the yes. That happens every single day. And it is insane because these are the only people that you will ever find that are allowed to have driver's licenses without information on them. It is insane. And these are people that are driving 20, 40,000 load trucks on interstates that they don't even understand the road signs. It is insane.
Dude, it's a real thing. When I started doing insurance, I focused real heavy on truck drivers. Those are my clients. We would set up tables at truck stops. And when you're there for months and months at a time and everyone's walking by, you could start picking them out left and right. And it always blew my mind. I'm like, dude, what border did you cross? Where did you come from? Who's your
Exactly.
guy? Who's your guy?
Exactly. Guys, if you're watching us on all channels here, do me a favor and give us a follow. Tap your fingers on the screen. Find a way to engage with the content. We surely do appreciate that. It helps with the algorithm. Jojo Stevens from YouTube had a very, very good comment. He said, and I quote, "America is its own worst enemy." Because Abraham Lincoln has said, "We'll never be destroyed by the outside, but from the inside out." 100% true. Abraham Lincoln was an incredibly smart man. That's why they killed him. You know, I mean, they always take out the smartest ones, you know, and it's just like you were saying earlier. It's absolutely true because the current scale of illegal immigration, which is legitimately tens of millions, and its real world impacts are absolutely severe. And there are things that people aren't necessarily taking into consideration. You have to deal with welfare costs. You have to deal with housing shortages. You have to deal with strained healthcare and education systems. And now on top of all of that, in all of these sanctuary cities, you're having to deal with the massive amount of overwhelming crime to the point to where the police, who are already strained in these cities, can't even handle basic problems anymore because they're now having to deal with migrant issues. And that overall is causing cultural fragmentation, where you have parallel societies that are forming and declining social trust. It is absolute real issues that people just overall ignore because they care more about what's going on in their own homes or their own neighborhoods or with their own social groups. And that's what allows this overall cultural assimilation to happen, where you wake up one day and you go outside of your house and all of a sudden you are outnumbered and unmanned. And that's what's happened every single place in Europe and the UK. And all of a sudden now you can't fight it anymore because there's more of them than there are of you. And this is happening in this country right now. 100% in every single sanctuary city. To the point to where now you're having, you know, prayer in the streets of New York and they're literally taking up the entire street. You tell me how we get back from that.
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, and it's a throwback because I'm thinking of my grandmother, you know, God rest her soul. She made it very clear, very religious woman, but she's from back home. She's one of the people that had to run and escape the Islamic persecution of the Christians just to be able to come to this country, okay? She made it very clear. If this country is not careful and they keep allowing that to grow and fester, there's not going to be in America for very much longer.
Correct.
It's that simple.
It's just that I believe that we're already there already. I've said that. I've argued that for the longest time because you're already starting to see this polling shift where you have a growing support among working class voters for mass deportation and reduced immigration. And then you're going to have this catalyst of open borders, which is going to be producing this undeniable negative result that just it can't be hidden any longer. I mean, you're getting to the point to where, you know, it's America is not the same as these European countries. Powder keg happens in America. It's not something you can come back from. This kind of stuff happens in Europe every damn day. You know, where they have these incidences that blow up in the middle of the street. America, I mean, we're just not the ones. And it's so close. It's so close to happening.
It is. And so something that I've been studying for quite some time now is the different phases of jihad. There are 4. And so in my estimation, we are in phase 2 of jihad in most places within the United States. Europe is in phase 3. Phase 4 looks like places like Iran, or Iran when it became Iran after it was Persia during that fall. And then ultimately during that reign, that is phase 4. And in phase 2, there is still an ability to get out in front of the 8 ball and actually stop this stuff. And there are ways to do it. One of the things that I think is really amazing is the fact that you now have red states that are declaring the Muslim Brotherhood as well as CARE to be domestic terrorist organizations. I'm incredibly glad to see that. And it's funny because a lot of people don't seem to understand the way that all of this stuff is fomented, but it is these groups, especially groups like CARE, that have these really nice, friendly, front-facing images about them. And most of them are female-driven because that is the way that they actually carry out takya, because that is baked into their religion, is lying to the native population so that they can subvert it. And they use their women to elicit empathy. And that is one of the things that we have to get out in front of. And frankly, it's one of the most important things that can happen in America at this moment, is stop listening to the women who are jumping out in front of things and crying. Because that weaponized empathy is going to be our downfall above anything else, in my opinion.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Let's check this out.
Wonder how far-right extremists manage to sneak their agendas into the political mainstream. Let me explain it to you, because they're trying to do it right now using this term, remigration. It's a growing movement in the United States and in Europe. And some folks are trying to make it grow here in Canada too. Because the language of remigration puts a more palatable package on some pretty disturbing far-right anti-immigrant goals. In 2019,
They're already whining. See what I'm saying? They're already whining. Why is it always pretty liberal white women?
Well,
Why?
The female perspective on this is really simple. So number one, we have been taught that we should have empathy as the highest level of value. So above anything else, empathy is the most important thing that women have been told to cultivate. And that empathy is being used against us. Number two, a big part of it is you see far less women who are mothers or who are well plugged into their families that talk this way. And the reason why is because women have an inborn need to nurture. We just do. And so you see the rising level of childlessness among women moving in lockstep with women's empathy being used as a weapon against the West. And the reason why is because it is innate within us to find something to nurture. And so they have sold the lie to these women that these men, these military-aged men that are coming over are these poor little lost souls that need to be nurtured, and they need to be protected. And because these women do not have a normal, healthy outlet, either within their community or within their own family, to nurture the things that they should be nurturing, instead they are turning and attempting to nurture this horde of invaders that is coming in. And this isn't even new. This has happened throughout history. When you see those birth rates collapse. Go for it. But yeah, when you see those birth rates collapse, you see women.
I hear you, and you're not wrong as far as that whole nurture thing and all that stuff. But the real actual problem is the fact that we have taken the manhood away from our men that have not been dealing with women the right way and knocking that shit out of them, if you know what I'm saying. I'm sorry to
you're
be
right
about it. But
no, you're right.
What?
The kind of women that have guys around them that are like, oh, I'm a male feminist. No, like, shut up. You're okay.
Why is it? Hey, look, real quick. Why is it always those dudes that have like 9 kids? You ever notice that? Did you ever notice that? Like, it's always the beta males that have like twins.
I can tell you why. So it's actually a part of evolutionary biology. It's called being a sneaky effer. Okay. Literally, if you look it up right now, you will find this. If you look up sneaky effer, this is an actual term in evolutionary biology because there are multiple ways that males of any species are able to breed. You either have brute force, you have intelligence, or you are a sneaky effer. And that's literally what this is. That is why you
I swear to God, that's a thing.
It is a thing.
Is
I'm
that like
so
when a
serious.
dude pretends
I swear to God, that's a
gay?
thing.
Is that like a thing where a dude's like, no, I'm gay. I'm letting her use some penis from time to
Yeah,
time?
yeah, it's the guy
Wait,
who
hold
gets
on.
invited
Hold
to
on. Let me-
sleepover.
Hold on. It's a thing. It's a thing like Urban Dictionary thing. Like it's just been said a lot. I don't see no actual definition here. I just see a
No,
bunch of
it
Reddit
is.
shit. This is a bunch of Reddit shit. This is just a bunch of.
No, I'm gonna find
Listen,
it. I'm gonna find it.
If the left can make up their own science, we can invent ours too, and that makes a lot of sense. Because I know dudes like that.
Sounds like some women shit. He's a sneaky fucker. That's all. That's what he is. That's what he is. I don't need another explanation. That's what he is.
No,
Sneaky.
I literally found it on Dr. Drew's website. It's a zoological term from the 1970s. Professor Gad Saad, SAAD, explains, I applied it to explain male social justice warriors. Literally. This is a term from the 70s.
Okay,
It's on Dr.
70s.
Drew's
Damn,
official
70s
website.
activist.
that guy's last name, SAAD.
Oh my God.
That's a Middle Eastern
Okay.
dude saying this. These
Listen
guys,
to this
they're not
rabbit hole.
They're men. They're not
That's
men.
a
They are
thing.
women.
What? Here it is.
Yeah.
Dead ass. Sneaky fuckers. The sneaky effers theory. How predatory men are faking wokeness to prey on women.
What's that guy's
Yep.
first name? The doctor?
What?
Gad or God, G-A-D.
God
Gad
Saad.
Saad.
Hello,
Really?
I am God Saad, and I'm here to tell you your men are not men. They are boys.
Are you serious?
They are sneaky
Yes.
fuckers. They are
This is
I'm
for real.
so out of pocket. I don't know
This
shit.
is
My
for
wife is
real.
right. She's like, you don't know shit. I'm like, I don't know. It's like, what? Since the 70s?
That one.
Yes, since the 70s. So this
They
is
could
for
not
real.
come up with a better zoological term than
No, that's
sneaky
perfect.
fuckers.
That's perfect. No, it's
It
perfect.
is. Well, I mean, it's very descriptive. It's exactly what it is.
It's like cars. It's like cars from the 70s. They were very simple. They were mechanical. They weren't like cars today. Cars
Mm-hmm.
from the 70s you could still drive today.
Yep, exactly.
That is what? That is
Yes,
so
this is for
crazy.
real. This is for real.
And here's the thing. So you add, destroying trying to destroy the male populace here, and then creating all these
What?
women that are just need a little extra attention, if you know what I mean. And then you start doing this issue with bringing in all these migrants, and I'm not saying immigrants. I'm talking about these illegal aliens that are here to suck off and drain off the system. I'm not talking about immigration. I'm talking about what's been used as a weapon against us.
People being funneled through the Darien Gap.
Exactly.
There, dude.
Exactly. So thank goodness there's a lot more red states. I don't know if you see this thing. This was if all this red stands up, don't worry about it. The blue will be
This
dealt
is where they tell you land doesn't vote.
Yeah, people vote. Land doesn't vote.
That's
And
what
I
they
will
say.
say,
Land
if people are
doesn't
not-
vote, bro.
If people are not involved in local politics, they need to be, because all of this stuff can be combated at a grassroots level. It really can. People have to stop waiting for the federal government to come and save them from this stuff. They just do.
You guys want to hear something funny? You guys know I'm running this recall petition in Aurora to get rid of this mayor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you something. At the 4th of July parade, we could talk about the dysfunction of the GOP that wasn't even represented in the second largest city in the state of Illinois. But
It's crazy.
it was hysterical that I'm walking through this crowd with this petition. There's a ton of people recognizing me. There's people saying, "Hey, you, come here. I know you. I don't like you. I'm a diehard Democrat. Well, give me that. I need to sign that." It's left and right. People from all across. It's hilarious to see that, and it has energized the everyday public. Random people that don't go to city council meetings, that just try to live their life. Now they're getting involved. Hey, tell us about this. I always thought you were kind of, we didn't know what to think of politics and this and that, but this makes sense for everybody. I got a communist kid, this guy handing out a magazine, the Spark magazine. It's a communist, labor workers rag. We stood there and talked for 20 minutes. I go, listen, bro, you're a full-blown communist. I'm a Republican. Let's talk about this. By the time we were done explaining the point of that, of having a recall mechanism, he was signing the petition.
Exactly.
It's hysterical.
That's amazing.
Full-blown admitted communist. He goes, no, that makes sense. It should be about the people. Do you see how you're all being used as puppets now?
I'm just convinced. I'm just convinced at this point that America is populated with fucking idiots. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love everybody, but for the love of God, like it just every facet of everything is just completely retarded.
Listen, they say the Illuminati hides in plain sight with movies, and the movie Idiocracy was made for a reason.
Dude, that movie was that movie was dead on balls accurate like 20 years ago.
No kidding. The funniest thing to me is in the details. So the shoes that everyone's wearing. Did you ever pay attention to that? So in Idiocracy,
he's a genius.
When they were doing the set design, they decided to try to pick the most ugly shoe that they thought would never ever become popular. Nobody would wear it. It was Crocs.
Yeah. Yeah.
No
I mean,
kidding.
he's legit.
Genius. Absolute genius.
Oh, that's wild. Well,
guys, if you're joining us, then do us a favor and follow, share the content with your friends. For the love of God, we have to re-educate America. I don't understand how you like. Is anybody even aware of what's going on? Like when you reach the point in a population where people are done. And it's always going to be the damn Irish because the Irish are just a bunch of psychopaths. But like in Dublin,
yes, we are.
in Dublin, like they're like people are done. Like, and I keep trying to explain like all of the explanation that people want to give and all the talking and everything is one thing, right? But when you get to the point to where these cities, in the UK and in Ireland, where they're in the next stage, where they are outnumbered. Now you have, people in Dublin that are, I mean, if we did what they're doing in Dublin, it would be called a race war. But that's essentially what you have because the Irish stick together. That's one thing that the Irish do. Thick or thin, good or bad, the Irish will stick together. That's why you have the number one city in the United States that's known for bank robbing. It's a freaking Boston town because the Irish stick with their own. Okay, but look at what's happening right now in Dublin. First of all, that shit's badass. Like that, I don't care. That shit's badass. Okay, and you don't see any fucking racial tension. You don't see them hanging anybody in the street. There ain't no nonsense. There ain't no ratchet behavior. There's no violence. It is simply a show of solidarity and unity. But let that happen in America and see what would happen. Personally, I feel like we're further along than they are.
Well, here's the thing: like those countries, if you look at Ireland, you look at all the countries. There's a homogenous people there. They're not. Yeah. These countries are not melting pot countries like America is. The America Project, relied on how many different cycles where of different groups of people came in and migrated and came here. However, they came here assimilated to the mission statement of the United States. became a part of the project and brought their culture, their vibe to it, and built into here. Not, hey, I'm going to go there and we're going to take it over and change it and make it ours and destroy.
Correct. And there's so much, like, people don't understand, right? And I tell people all the time, like, America is damn near already a communist society. If you peel off the veil of propaganda that Americans are forced to live under, and you understand how news looks to people in other countries, then you have to ask yourself why this topic triggers such extreme outrage, like accusations of racism, xenophobia, white supremacy, and all of that stuff. Because this whole, like, nation of immigrants myth is exactly that. It's all based on a bunch of lies. America was extremely selective about immigration for most of its history.
Correct.
For most of its history. This has only been under Democratic rule that this has happened. You're simply dealing with a populace that is not educated enough to understand that. They have low attention spans, and they're dealing with a younger audience. So they are perpetually manipulating the electoral cycle and the information. And it creates all sorts of challenges that these younger generation are not prepared to deal with because they have not been properly taught.
Oh, that's the
legal hurdles. Of course, and it's going to do nothing but get worse, to the point to where in a couple more generations, they're going to have no choice but to stick their hand out to their government and say, help me. I'll give you whatever you want. And there you go. That's communism.
I think it's closer than people think. I think it's even closer than a few generations. And the reason why I say that is something that I was touching on earlier. All of these women who are childless and single, because what is the percentage now? 53% of women, of millennial women from my generation, are going to be childless and single.
Yeah.
That
according
is exactly,
to the polls.
Yeah, that is exactly who is going to be walking up and voting to take away all of the wealth and all the resources from people who are younger than them. Those are going to be the women who are going to be responsible for ushering in communism. And obviously, that's just my own personal take on it. But I mean, if you see these women, they have no plan for the future. They have no family that's going to be supporting them in their old age. And they are going to take whatever they have to in order to get what they feel like they deserve.
Well,
correct.
This much. There's a nice statistic that's out there that the actual American family, like, the conservative family, that we are starting to populate again. Families are starting to have more kids again. So, I mean, and here's the thing, like, the idea of this being a melting pot country, that American pride idea, it's not just like in Ireland, it's only the Irish that are fighting for themselves. In Germany, it's only the Germans that are fighting for themselves, etc. Here, you got white, black, Middle Eastern, Hispanic, I don't care, all these different descents that do not want this country to turn into what they escaped from. So add all of them into our corner as well, and it's definitely going to be a show, let me tell you.
Yeah, well,
remigration, let me be very specific for everybody that's ever going to watch this. Remigration has never been, nor will it ever be, about hatred. And anybody that is trying to sell you on that is trying to sell you. Ignoring demographic reality is far more dangerous in the long term than what's happening right now. That is the facts. And that is what's happening right now. If you continue to ignore your common sense demographic, you are going to completely turn your back on your country. And at the current demographic, I don't understand how anybody out there that has enough sense to even talk about this particular subject. Honest assessment to anybody that's listening. How can you say that under the current demographic and cultural trends, how are those sustainable for a cohesive and high trust republic? I would love to have this conversation with anybody that would love to have it.
See, but it's not a conversation you can have with a rational person, because if you have this conversation with a rational person, it's not going to be a conversation. It's going to be two people sitting there saying, this is correct. You're going to have to be batshit crazy out of your mind to try to explain off that that's a good idea. I don't want, like, it's amazing to me, the small faction, the small number of this socialist mentality, this communist behavior that has infiltrated every single level that they needed to. Over the last 40 years, they've been doing this. A very slow game. Let your opponent think they're so far ahead in the race when we're really so far behind that we just think we're in front. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's the slow march through the institutions.
Right.
That was always the plan. That was always the play.
So now we got a group of people in leadership on both sides, even on the Democrats. I got to tell you, there are a lot of Democrats that are freaked out that their party got sucked up by the DSA. They're
John
freaking
Fetterman's
out.
a perfect example.
Perfect example of it.
Yeah, Fetterman's the only one with a damn spine, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because the rest, here's the thing. In that party, the moment you step out, they have 15 socialist soldiers ready to primary you.
Yep, they do, and there's
It's
central
unreal.
casting for all of it. It's amazing how well organized it is.
So the answer for the older leadership of the GOP and of the Blue Dog Democrats, get the hell out of the way and start empowering some real fighters. Don't suppress us. Don't shut our mouths and try to handle it the way you've been doing it since time was time. That shouldn't work. You got beat. You got beat bad. So now it's time to beat them at their own game. If these people have a playbook that works, and their foundational principles that motivate that playbook is communism and Marxism, use that same playbook with the foundational principles of freedom and our country being our country. It's a playbook that works.
Well, and it's funny because
Go ahead.
even one of the founding rules for the playbook that they use is find your opponent's rules and force them to adhere to it. That is literally part of what they play by. And simply doing that, simply making them adhere to their own rules would be a game changer.
It's just
And how can you sit around and want to claim that you're not a slave to the system if that's the way that you live your life? I mean, if you sit back and you just believe the lie that's constantly being told you to the point to where you have to sit there and hold out your hand, then, I mean, that's kind of where you're at.
Absolutely. And like the root of so many issues would be solved through remigration, because if you just look at people that were given asylum status in a dishonest way, because there are the huge Somali fraud communities are a perfect example. They should be denaturalized and remigrated back to their home country. Then you have people who are here illegally as well. Just looking at those two communities, you're looking at somewhere between 25 million people and 35 million people. There's your housing crisis gone. Like, it's so many of the issues that we have of scarcity and lack are because we have people here that should not be here in the first place. They are not people who were actually fleeing from something. They were not people who came here in good faith, who actually wanted to engage in the American experiment and do what was asked of them, which is bring the good from your culture, leave the bad behind, and join with all of us in this large experiment, because that was the spirit of what was supposed to be happening here. And that is what we have lost sight of.
Let me throw devil's advocate. Even if they were escaping and really fleeing actual horrible torture in their world, let's just pretend that was the case happening. If you escape that and then you bring it right here with you and try to do your version of it here, you're out of your freaking mind. Be gone.
Yep. Yeah.
Correct.
That's a good point, because a lot of that is happening. And one of the ways that that's reflected, if you just look within some of these pockets of communities, and I know I'm picking on the Somalis a lot, but here it is. One of the things that you'll find a lot within the Somali community is a high rate of female genital mutilation. And it's happening here. They are doing it here. So it's not like it's something that they came over that way, etc. No, they're continuing to perpetuate that type of horror show on their children within this country.
Here on American soil, being taken care of and fed and given money by American taxpayers. And that's disgusting. There's a tribe in Papua New Guinea that I heard about recently where the only way you can become a man, like the actual passage to be a man in that culture, from the age of 8 to 14, is every single male member of that community has to grape you.
Yep.
It's that simple. And if that's just your culture, that's just what you do. And there's videos I was told of, like, you'd see mothers trying to fight off these men to come and to protect their sons so this doesn't have to happen to them. But if those people escape from that and they come here to the U.S. and they start doing that here, other than, I don't think sodomy is legal, not only anywhere, but like even the Mormons aren't that nuts.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know what?
And the fact of the matter is, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, we're allowing this to happen.
That's what I'm saying. We're just supposed to be like, oh, well, it's their cultural thing. Well, it's also the cultural thing, supposedly, with these radical Islamists in UK, where they get to, grape little girls and they don't care because it's a part of their religion. They're allowed to. So you're just supposed to allow it? Are you
Correct.
kidding me? You know,
And
Absolutely.
the simple fact is there are realistic solutions to these problems, and they're not really that big of a deal.
No,
We
they're not.
prioritize American citizens. It's called
Feelings.
America First.
But
Huh? Isn't that a
feelings.
crazy concept?
No, but feelings, and but feelings.
Fuck your feelings.
Oh my god.
Well, and
We
it's just so
prioritize
simple.
American citizens first. We
We do.
enforce immigration law. We incentivize voluntary remigration and cultural preservation.
Well, and
Correct.
it's funny because
There's your
the leftist-
solutions right there.
Exactly. And the leftist argument hinges on all cultures are equal, everyone can assimilate, everybody is the same as everyone else. But the moment you talk about sending these people back to where they came from, they're crying and screaming like we're literally sending them into the seventh realm of hell. It's like, which is it? Okay. Are all cultures equal, and where they come from just as beautiful and wonderful and prosperous and clean as the United States? Or did they actually come from an S-hole country like what Donald Trump said? And that is why they were trying to come here. Everything else aside, it's so funny because their entire argument tangles up on itself the moment that you start to analyze it.
Every argument they have tangles up on itself.
Have
It
you guys
does.
seen these videos on TikTok of all these foreigners that have come here for the World Cup?
Oh,
Yes.
They're like,
it's my
"Hey, we
favorite
owe-
thing.
We owe
Yes.
you guys such an
100%.
The
They are
way-
talking about it everywhere. And I tell you what, I
Everywhere.
fucking love it. I love it. I have that has made me feel more patriotism than damn near 9/11 did. To hear about all these people that are coming over to America. And you got to think about how many tens of thousands of dollars these people are spending to get over here and to go from city to city. And guess what they're all saying? Wow,
We can't believe
it's really nice here.
they're all saying it, you
And
know,
everyone's really nice. What's this thing you have called Southern hospitality? It's really nice.
dude, they're tripping over ranch and free refills. But
Yeah.
it's unreal because they're sitting there like, you know, America, we got to tell you the way that you're described to us on our news in our countries that everybody is shooting everybody over here and everything is crazy. And you guys are rude and degenerates and you're all assholes, but we love you. And there's people that are freaking out saying we don't think Chick-fil-A is racist at all. I mean homophobic at all. Like it's unreal. And to see you're right,
Exactly.
see that, and you're seeing it from every single freaking culture from everywhere.
Yep.
I love 'em.
Absolutely. And it's amazing because really this has undermined trillions of dollars in propaganda and decades of effort, all with this one move. And it's really funny because Trump actually, I believe, worked with FIFA to set this up during his first term. So this has been in the works for a very long time. And I swear to you, I bet that man knew what he was doing.
It's crazy. It's almost like when you start prioritizing American citizens, you know, like things start going better.
I'm telling you,
Yeah,
right?
go
The
figure.
simple fact is this. We have to have an open and fearless national conversation about what kind of country we want to leave to our children. That is facts. That is some hard-hitting reality that every single parent out there right now needs to think about. Because that is the reality. And I openly challenge every single person in the audience, all 5 of y'all right now, whoever probably listening. Do you believe that is possible? What do you believe is possible? Are we better off facing reality now or continuing the experiment and hoping for the best? Because the reality is it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better. At what point are we willing to stop when we have Christians being, killed in the middle of the street? That's coming.
It is.
When we have women being stoned in Shia cities, and that's coming.
Dude, if you have a pulmonary issue in your heart, okay, and the options are open heart surgery now, and you're going to have about a week or two of recovery, but it's got a 20% death rate, or we can do a temporary solution now, but you're still going to end up having to have that open heart surgery in 5 years from now, where it's going to be a 40% death rate. What do you take? You do the open heart surgery now, you go in there and you fix the problem. You don't keep putting bandages on things.
I mean, the thing that upsets me the most, and this is
And
where
shout
I'll
out to
want.
the show, The Rookie, by the way. That's where I just got that.
Yeah, that was actually a good show. Here's the thing that really upsets me the most, and this is where I'll wind it down, because we can riff on this forever.
Exactly.
It's the fact that on the Republican side, we might not be able to have solidarity as a party like the Democrats do, but it's because we have morals and we're not willing to sacrifice our soul for the people around us. And the way that the Democrats openly use their people, their voter base, they manipulate them with information, truth mixed with lies, and are not willing to educate their own people. And then we have to come along and try to educate people about what's really going on. It puts people in a place where, I mean, it's all the plan. You don't know who to trust, so you just say screw it and you want to hold out your hand. And that's where we are.
I'll tackle that real quick before we wind this down, because this could segue to another conversation. That problem, I mean, and you nailed it. The problem can be easily solved on the GOP side, on the Republican side. The problem is they don't want to do the work. The majority of them, the grassroots, the people out there in the streets, the people living in the communities, they all want this. But party leadership does not want to be relational and missional. I'll give you an example. When their goal is, all right, you bring two people and you find two people and you bring them to us and introduce them to us, as opposed to going out and saying, hey, we've lost the locker room. We need to go work back with these communities to get them to actually talk to us again. Because the majority of the country, I'll be real with you, dog, if you're black or brown or you look anything like me, you have a very conservative family background. That's what your culture really is. So if the Republicans are going to keep refusing to go deal with all those folks because we might be the wrong kind of black or brown for them, the people that would vote got nowhere to go to. And then
the Democrats have openly said they don't want to deal with educated people.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason.
Let's just call a spade a spade.
There's a reason for that. But
the Democrats don't deal with educated black people.
That'll be my piece for the night.
I mean, it is what it is, and I'll leave it with that. Guys, thank you for joining me this evening. Like always, of course, we're going to get into this more and more because there's a, in my opinion, there is a massive, massive propaganda campaign that's being perpetrated against the American people right now. And it doesn't take very much. I mean, you can either just choose to give a damn and you can just say, hey, let's ask questions, in which case all of the answers you need are right in front of you and you don't need me to tell you. It's right there. Boom. Here it is. Like you're being used. Or you could just not give a shit and you can be one of these assholes that's openly perpetuating this Democrat lie and this cycle that continues to happen over and over and over again.
I got to tell you, Captain, I want to narrow that down. I want to stop saying Democrat, and I really want to start saying DSA, Democrat Socialist of America, because there's a lot of those Dems that are freaking the hell out and waking, but they're stuck. They're trapped. They are powerless.
I don't want to give them a way out, dude. They're Democrats. If you got a problem with your party, leave the party. I'm not going to be a liberal and give you a new party name just so you can feel good about being a Democrat.
But then I look at people like Fetterman and 15th Ward Chicago Alderman Raymond Lopez. These are guys that want to stay in and try to fight those socialists and throw them out of their own party. I got to give them some credit for that.
I mean, I'll always give Fetterman credit. I think he's a decent guy. Mm-hmm. Granted, he's a Democrat, but I think he's a decent. Just like I think Bill Maher is a decent guy and he's a Democrat. Right. But I mean, it is what it is. And Bill Maher is one of the people that are openly telling you like, this is some bullshit. I don't want to vote blue right now. Like,
you guys don't want this.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't want the smoke.
Well, and if his vote is in play, which is what he said recently in a monologue, that means that there are millions of other people who are feeling the exact same way.
And you got to think, he is a public figure. It takes some nuts to stand up in front of your whole damn audience because you're going to lose 50% of whatever you say. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. And but anyways,
ladies,
he is. I like him. We're going to continue this conversation on the next one. I got a lot more to say, and I'm sure everybody else does too. And of course, we're going to be.
I love you, my friend.
We're going to be starting the morning show here soon. But yeah, you two have a good night, and I'll get with you guys on the next one.
Peace out.
And a couple more things to say here on my mind. I keep telling them. That's the one thing that's frustrating me is like I keep telling them. I feel like Sisyphus keep rolling the stone up the hill over and over again. That's part of my existence. Patriots, before we sign off tonight, let's be honest about where we are as a country. Millions of Americans are fed up. They're tired of watching their communities change overnight. Their tax dollars fund people who shouldn't be here, and their children's futures get sacrificed on the altar of political correctness. The frustration is real. The anger is growing, and the demand is very, very simple. Put Americans first. Whether you call it deportation, remigration, or just damn common sense, the American people are waking up to the reality that unlimited, unassimilated immigration is absolutely non-sustainable. And the history shows us this conversation is nothing new. But here's the bigger question that we all need to wrestle with tonight. If we are unwilling or unable to educate ourselves on these hard truths, if we keep letting emotions, slogans, and the fear of being called names override cold, hard reality and facts, then what kind of a country are we leaving for our children? It's certainly not one that I'm proud of, certainly not one you should be proud of. What the hell are we fighting for? A divided country? A broken one? One that no longer resembles the nation our ancestors built, because that's exactly what it is. But the future isn't written yet. But it'll be decided by whether we have the courage to face those uncomfortable facts, have those uncomfortable conversations, and make difficult choices, or whether we continue to sleepwalk into consequences that we were warned about for many, many years. Choice is ours. Thank you for riding with us again tonight. I'm going to leave you with a little video tonight because I want you to keep thinking critically, to keep asking yourselves questions. And damn it, never apologize for loving this country enough to fight for its future. Never apologize. Ever. We'll see you on the next ride.
Are massive. There's 50 million Muslims in Europe. There's more Muslims in Europe than there are in some Muslim majority countries. If all the Muslims in Europe were one country, it would be one of the biggest Muslim countries in the world. That's the truth. If all the Muslims in Europe were one country, it would be in the top 10 or top 15 biggest Muslim countries in the world. It would be a big country. We're a big people. So that means we need to start acting like the Muslim community have to become the consequence. Make them think, okay, well, if we mess around with this community, what's going to happen? We have to start acting as if we have the upper hand, because we do.
I dare say many of us already believe our politicians and councillors, and well, every political and educational, even cultural institution already panders to Muslims. But that this isn't enough tells us that, well, a very challenging future is on the way, not just for Britain, but the whole of Europe. As I've said before, I have some ambivalence to all of this because, well, I'm not a liberal. I never expected Muslims to come here en masse and adopt the liberal worldview, to start attending the pride marches and so on. Yeah, I'm sure there's one in a million who acts like that, who ends up on the front of the Guardian and the BBC like, look, bigots, Muslims are gays too, as they go to the Taylor Swift concert with their boyfriend Julian. But in truth, this sort of phenomena is vanishingly small. The vast majority of Muslims are ultra-conservative. They have a massive in-group preference, and they will always place their loyalty to Allah over worldly systems, especially the modern Western liberal regime. I'm sure I've committed some sort of Islamophobiaism there, but the reality is, do you even blame Muslims for behaving this way? What is wrong with being loyal to your tradition? It's only the liberal mindset that makes us believe that Muslims should come here and start acting like Harry Styles and Owen Jones. Now, while it goes without saying, I've been completely opposed to the mass immigration and multicultural project, not out of hatred, but because I believe that each tradition and people of the world needs its own spiritual, psychological, and geographical space in order to develop its roots deep into the earth and promote a strong civilization that can coordinate a people throughout time. And to be clear, the mass immigration multiculturalism nexus was never about tolerance or kindness or the beneficence of migrants who came over here to, quote, save our NHS. It was the will of money power to undermine stable, homogenous nations, which allowed them to assume total Western-wide political control. Of course, this was buttressed by bringing on the capitalist class, who salivated at the promise of a vast low-wage worker base, and middle-class radical leftists who, in their proto-religious zeal to combat, quote, racism and prove their moral worth, became a squawking, screeching battering ram for the globalist liberal regime on the ground level and in every major institution. So with all this understood, while I disagree with the mass immigration project, I don't blame Muslims for holding on to their tradition. In fact, in many ways, I respect it. I don't expect them to turn into Richard Dawkins tomorrow. And in fact, I think that would be a bit inhumane. It's their tradition and our fault for importing them. I say it wasn't us, but you get my point. And to make matters worse, our overlords in the Western world just don't know what they're doing. They're working on the level of pure utopian ideology. They believe if they can just segue people's traditional religious figures into their own ideology, everything will be fine. We've seen this many times with Christianity. Don't you know Jesus was LGBTQ? He'd accept all the migrants. What's wrong with you? They do the same with Islam now, actually. You see things like, do you know Muhammad was actually the first feminist? And you're thinking, I don't know, didn't he marry a 6-year-old and have women stoned to death? Is that really feminist? But it's not really about actual coherent logic. It's about segueing everything into the liberal regime and censoring and demeaning anybody who disagrees with it. So as you can see, the modern Western states now find themselves in a sort of pressure cooker. You have the Muslim populations who see themselves as an oppressed minority who've got to rise up and take political autonomy. They're increasingly aggressive with it, but if you say anything, the state will come down hard on you as it desperately tries to censor any dissent to its project. And then within the native populations, I'd say you have three main groupings. You have those who are very concerned about what's going on, who really are looking at the big picture and thinking, this really could be the beginning of the death of our nation, even our continent and our civilization, if we don't take coercive action. Then you have the counter to that, the sort of middle-class lefty radicals, those who believe their ultimate purpose in life is proving their virtue by accepting the, quote, other, therefore they will take the side of the people who've come in more recently and see it as their moral duty to oppose the, quote-unquote, racists and lead to the, tomorrow's utopia where everyone holds hands at the Pride March. You might note that both sides have a sort of apocalyptic flavour. One side can see the end of the nation, arguably the end of the West. The other will say it's the return to fascism, the destruction of the world, World War III, and we need to stop it now. Through the metapolitical angle, what this ultimately tells us is that yes, we are at the end of the liberal cycle. Everybody instinctively can feel that we're coming to some crunch point. Things can simply not continue as they are, no matter the ideological frame that you're within. However, in the middle of these two groups, you have the biggest group by far. That would be the normies, if you will. They're sort of contained with, Cheetos and sports ball and pornography, the masses. Maybe I'm being a bit mean there. I think some people are just apolitical, but there's no doubt we're being dumbed down. I mean, if you read your TV guide recently, just have a look at the sort of things that we have on average television these days. You read it, you think, who the is this even for? It's the same with the radio. You click it on, it's this endless thumping music, and all the DJ people, they shout all the time and constantly trying to pump you full of action and dopamine. You think, it's so poisonous for the soul. It's quite clear that we're sort of psychologically and spiritually contained in the noise of modernity. Anyway, rant over. The point I'm making here is Western states find themselves at an existential crisis. We're at the crossroads. And it's led many people to talk about remigration as the only solution moving forwards. Now, while I agree in spirit with remigration, I think different people have differing levels of what we mean by that, but we'll park that one for now. The problem is, how politically viable is it We're getting a bit of an insight into that question with recent events in America. Of course, I'm referencing the current ICE raids that are going on, where basically they're taking out the illegal immigrants. Now, we'll explore the challenges that have cropped up with this in a moment. But firstly, it does need to be said again, it's almost made out, largely because of the rhetoric from Trump, that Europe's in this terrible position and we can't turn things around. But we should remember, European Americans are set to become a minority by 2040. That's under 15 years. Most estimates in Western Europe are around 2060. Now, this isn't me saying that things aren't bad in Europe, that we're not witnessing mass decay, and of course America is still the global superpower. But when you look at images like this on your screen, this is the subway system in Chicago, it looks like the fourth rung of hell. I mean, Jesus, they're in a bad way. Now, I know there's lots of needless needle between Europeans and Americans online about who's worse off and who's better, which is completely pointless in this day and age. We need to stand together right now. We're in the same situation. So I'm not highlighting this to say, ha ha. I'm highlighting it to say, in some ways, America's a lot more far gone than we are. In other ways, a lot more powerful and has a lot more potential. So look, America has to act and act fast if it's to change its demographic situation. But in reality, I'm not even sure that's what it's doing. If you look at these ICE raids, yes, it looks like something out of a movie. These guys look tough, they look hard, they look ready for action. It's very MAGA, and it's going to play very well with MAGA's base. But like so much in the modern world, you have to wonder, where does the spectacle end and reality begin? Is this not all just hyper-real anyway? Remember, the narrative that we're supposed to follow is that Trump is kicking ass and taking names. He's hardcore. He's going to sort out America, take the immigration issue with a stranglehold, and sort it out whatever it takes. On your screen now is an ICE raid under Obama's tenure. Now, again, you probably notice on your screen there are no protesters here, which tells us something quite important. The Trump ICE raids are really more political theatre than political action. It looks good to the MAGA base, it looks like you're taking action. But to the other side of the political divide, they see it as the fascist takeover and are going out in the streets to literally oppose these ICE agents, even to the point of getting themselves shot for the sake of some Somalians committing fraud on the surface, but really because they see it as fighting Hitler back in 1933. We'd be wise to remember that the actual deportation numbers under Trump, when scaled to match Obama and Biden on a per capita basis, are less. In fact, Obama was even known by immigrants' rights groups as the deporter-in-chief. Now, this isn't me saying, oh, isn't Obama based? Let's bring in the Democrats to sort everything out. It's saying there's a big difference between political theatre and political reality. Now, I know a couple of people who've lost their lives opposing these ICE raids, but that's not to deny its spectacle, it's because it's a spectacle. Again, the MAGA base gets to see the guys in the hardcore military uniform kicking ass and taking names, but if you look at the liberal side of social media, there are endless videos of women and men crying their eyes out about ICE, how it's all so terrible. I mean, they don't cry their eyes out when some poor child gets raped by an illegal immigrant, but this again, it's because it's part of the melodrama they've bought into. Now, I'm not saying any of this to be needlessly critical. I'm saying it because the Western nations are in an existential crisis, and it seems ironic that the less fuss you make about this, the more people you can deport. As soon as Trump made it a front and centre issue, it's clear it's been massively opposed by the other half of the country, and it's creating an untenable situation. When all is said and done with this, when the dust finally settles, when Trump completes his tenure, will anything have been done to shift the demographic situation facing America at all? Remember, this is just the illegals Trump is dealing with right now. This isn't even the foreign criminals, people who shouldn't be here, yada yada. So imagine if you tried this with all-out remigration measures. You could have total vigilantism from the left, not to mention they team up with lots of migrant communities, and well, that could lead to a sort of an all-out war situation in which the white Western male becomes the number one enemy. So what lessons could we draw from this with regards to any potential future remigration measures? Well, the first one seems to be the obvious one. You need a unified nation, or at least a more unified nation. America is split down the middle. I'm not sure if European nations are quite that split, but they are split. And it seems to me you're going to have to engage the normies, but normies will only ever be engaged when they feel existentially threatened, which may well happen in the future anyway, but at that point things could be too far gone. Secondly, the obvious one, you're going to need a very strong leader. We don't like to admit it in this day and age, but all political ideologies will lead to negatives for somebody, even death for some people. But even more hardcore ones will take a very strong stomach, yes, and a bigger view of the future. Thirdly, we're going to need clear indications on what remigration means and who gets remigrated. We obviously have Steve Laws at the moment. He's sort of the go-to guy for a hard line on remigration. I'd say he's too hardcore for me. I think he would be for many. However, he does hold a position, and people who hold positions become coordinates to work off. But there will have to be some very difficult decisions and definitions on what and who needs to be remigrated. Of course, on top of that, one I often speak about as well, new ways of thinking. You can remigrate people from your country, but that doesn't naturally become a panacea. You still need a thriving, vital energy, something to sustain you, a way of life. That's why I speak about tradition so much.